Welcome to the Iconics Genesis 64 video guide. This video discusses how to open Genesis 64 pop-up windows from GraphWorX64. It also discusses the various differences between different types of pop-up windows.
A pop-up window allows you to open another GraphWorX display on top of the currently opened one. This may be useful if you want to show some additional information about the object you have clicked on. So, to show you an example, let me open one of the GenDemo displays. I will use the oil platform. The GenDemo displays are opening in a pop-up window. So, as you can see, if I reduce the size of this window, I still have the main GenDemo display in the background with all my examples. So this is also used in the GenDemo to show examples on top of the main display. The display that I have currently loaded shows an oil platform along with a ship which is approaching to the oil platform. If I want to show some more information about the ship, I can make it clickable and open a pop-up window which will open on top of the currently loaded display. So in this way I can show some additional information about the ship, and when I am all set, I can dismiss this window and go back to the main display. There are different types of pop-up available, so let me show you where you can find them and how you can configure them. To open a pop-up window you will need to configure a pick action, so I will use a button which comes with a default pick action by itself, and the default command for this pick action is the load display, which is exactly what we need to open a pop-up window. There are other commands available, but right now we need the load display, so we don't need to change this. The different type of pop-up windows available are accessible from the target type property. So if I expand this drop-down, I will see the possible choices that I have. 5 of them are for pop-up windows, and there are others for different type of load display commands. So for example, I can open a display in place of the currently loaded display, or I can load it in an embedded window. But in this video we will only focus on the pop-up window possibilities. So to show them, let me load an example which I have already created. So in this example I have created 5 buttons. Each of them is loading a pop-up using one of the different target type properties available. So to see how this works, let me go into runtime mode. Now, the first big difference we have to make between pop-up windows is between the modal pop-ups and non-modal pop-up. A modal window is a pop-up that when opened, it will not allow you to interact with the main display before you dismiss it. So in this case, I am not allowed to click on the buttons in the main display before I close this little pop-up dialog. When I close it, I can interact with the display again, and then again I have to close it. A non-modal pop-up, on the other hand, allows me to interact with the main display. So, for example, I can click again and open other pop-up windows, and in this case the display is always the same, it is just loaded 3 times. If I load it as a modal now, I will no longer be able to interact with the display again, and not even with the pop-up window that I have opened earlier. I will need to dismiss the modal pop-up first, and then I will be able to interact with the other objects. So this was about the difference between modal and non-modal pop-ups. Another big difference is between display-dependent, window-dependent, and independent pop-ups. A display-dependent pop-up will make the pop-up disappear if another display is loaded in the main display. So to do that, I can click on the button here to load another display in parent, and as you can see, the pop-up disappeared because it was display-dependent. If I go back and load a window-dependent pop-up, this pop-up will only disappear when I close this window, not if I load another display in the parent display. So as you can see, it is still here. I will have to manually close it or to close the window to dismiss it. Now, another thing that you can see is that a window-dependent pop-up will disappear if I minimize the window. And let me also close my GenDemo display here. If I restore my display, then also the pop-up is restored. If I open an independent pop-up, it will behave independently from the main display. So if I minimize this, the pop-up will remain visible. So you have a certain set of possibilities when opening a pop-up, and as you can see here, now the independent pop-up is still open, but it is not visible because it went behind my main display. So, as I was saying, you have different type of possibilities when opening a pop-up. You will have to pick one of them depending on your needs. So, just to recap, modal and non-modal is one of the biggest differences because you will not be able to interact with your main display if you have opened a modal pop-up. And then you will also have to select between display dependent, window dependent and independent. All of these possibilities should fit more or less all the needs. You can also take a look at the other possibilities that you have with the load display pick action, which are not related to pop-up windows.